Hi guys, it's Heather and I'm back with another video on dark romance. Now, last week we talked about why Daemon Targaryen from season 2 of House of Dragon is like the worst possible person to base a character off of if you're looking for kind of inspiration on how to write a dark romance hero. And today we're going to talk about the perfect dark romance hero. And it's probably not who you suspect. I mean, you guys already know because of the title, but still. So I'm really excited to jump into this. I love talking about people that I love. And so this is going to be so much fun. He's so cute. Okay, let's. Okay. Boyd Crowder is the best dark romance hero. Okay. He just is. I'm going to die on this hill. Love him. Okay. Okay. First of all, I know Justified is not dark romance. You do not need to explain that to me. However, I think Boyd is the perfect example of how you should write a dark romance hero. And we're going to use him because number one, I love talking about him and looking at pictures. And number two, if you want to write a good hero, this is who you should encapsulate. And I will go into why. Okay. Um, And I think that it's important because a lot of sometimes characters in straight out romances like suck. And a lot of the characters who aren't straight out romance characters, you can take them from their show and plug them into a romance and they are going to be perfect. And I think that Boyd is a huge example of this. So 5 things that will make your hero. Obsessed with the heroine, which I think we went into pretty well in the last video. This us against the world mentality. Touch her and die, always a favorite. Forbidden romance, and he's willing to give up everything for her. So, first, just like I did in the last one, there are certain aspects of Boyd's character that didn't make for a good dark romance hero, and quite frankly, were out of character for him. Um, Seasons 5 and 6, if you've been listening to the podcast that I do with Chelsea, where we kind of talk about Fallout, I kind of have been talking a little bit about how I just recently watched the show. And seasons 1 through 4 were amazing when it came to Ava and Boyd. Seasons 5 and 6, however, I mean, 5 was decent, and then it went all to shit in 6. Not necessarily because of Boyd. A lot of it was because of Ava's storyline and how it didn't add up for her character. And again, like I mentioned with Rhaenyra, if you guys are interested in why Ava did it, at least Ava season 5 and 6 didn't work as a heroine, let me know in the comments because I'd love to dissect it because I have so many thoughts. But anyway, based on what we were seeing or what we saw in the show, these are things that you should not utilize if you are writing a dark romance for your hero. So at one point, so just so everyone knows, Ava winds up getting arrested, and she starts in the jail, and then she's moved to sort of a prison facility. Anyway, okay, so Boyd has the opportunity to bargain for Ava's release. Basically, they want information, and by they, I mean Raylan and the marshals want information from Boyd. And instead of saying, well, I want Ava out of prison, he decides to ask them to wipe his slate clean, so to speak. And Boyd's file is like a mile long, and he should have known that they weren't going to do that, even if they said they were. Like, that didn't think Boyd's smart. He's the smartest guy in the room, and I just didn't understand it. To be fair, Ava had broken up with him. Now, I was actually okay with this breakup because the way that it seemed is she was doing it in a way because she had to do some sketchy things in prison in order to survive. And by sketchy, I don't mean like weird. I mean like she had to kill people or hurt them. And she didn't want that associated with him. So she protected him, or she broke up with him to protect him. And I'm 100% down with that. Like that is perfectly fine. Okay. So I'm fine with the way that that happened even in the show. But Boyd genuinely loves her. They built up this relationship from season 1 all the way to the end of season 4. And even knowing that Ava broke up with them, and she specifically lays it out like, I don't want this anywhere near you. Boyd doesn't have to be happy with the breakup, but there's no way that he would have still let her stay in prison. Um, Second point is letting some rando feel him up. Okay, so again, this is another, like, there's context here, right? So, like, he's trying to get Ava out of prison. One of the people who kind of helped put her away was this old funeral director guy, okay? Who has this really super hot younger wife, okay? Who, surprise, surprise, doesn't want to be married to this guy. Anyway, Boyd beats the shit out of this guy because of what he did to Ava. And so what they're trying to like come they're because I don't know what the writers are even thinking. Like this is the stupidest thing. So I guess they're kind of working together because she wants it was really weird. I don't even know. Like he couldn't die because anyway, basically she needs to understand where his tattoos are on his body in order to find a dead body, and they could just pretend that it was Boyd, right? Because that's what her husband wants. She wants Boyd dead. So he strips his shirt, and to be fair, Walton Goggins great. He's fit, great. But I don't like her running her hands all over him. And we won't even go into what happens after that. And he just lets it happen. Like he just lets it happen. Like, I'm sorry, sir. If that was happening to Ava, do you think that you would be okay with it regardless of the situation? Probably the fuck not. And yet you're gonna let this girl? What? It didn't make any sense. Like, Boyd would never. Boyd would never. Okay. Taking his shirt off so she could catalog the tattoos, yes. The second she touches him, he would not have it. Okay. Letting the guard of the prison guard, why didn't I just write it like that? Who's responsible for Ava's transfer, so from like closer to Harlan, and I think less security in that it was not as like tightly ran. It's not a tightly ran ship. Um, to transfer without any consequences. Okay, again, context, right? Okay. Ava, this guy, this short little dude, this little Napoleon, I don't know if he knew who she was. I don't think he did. I don't think he would have messed with her if he did, but it was more like Ava's beautiful and he was going to assault her. And one of the guards, another female guard, basically kind of stops him from doing so. And then, proceeds to beat the shit out of him in a way where, because basically she's saying, dude, do you know who that is? You can't do that with her. So everything's looking great. Like Ava is looking like she is ready. She's gonna get out of prison because what actually got her into prison has all been recanted. Everything's great. And then the dude, the random guard, shivs himself. And her cellmate is the witness to confirm that Ava shivved him. So everyone's pissed. I'm pissed. I'm just like, fuck. Okay. So she gets transferred because of this. And Boyd, apparently, this little dude, this guard, has gone into hiding. But Boyd, of course, finds him, kidnaps him. Now, I am not saying Boyd needed to kill him. because he needs the guard to recant his statement, which winds up happening. But nothing, like he doesn't, he lets him go. Like he lets him go after he's like, oh, I did it because I was in love with her. Now I was looking up like reactions to this, and someone's like, well, Boyd's just tired. And I'm like, okay, I get that. But like, no. And then at this point, they're broken up, right? But it didn't matter because he still went after the guy, even though they were broken up. So I think Boyd beats the shit out of the guy and gets them to recant. Like, I don't understand why you would take the time to write him getting the guy only to let him go without him even recanting the statement. Like, what was the point of that? I just didn't understand. Um, and then he hid things in season 6 in her home without telling her. So Ava gets released, and again, it's so stupid. You know, she's gonna be a CI. She's gonna get information on Boyd. And Boyd hides some of his things in her sort of garage. And before, they were very ride or die, like they trusted each other. They were always talking to each other. Now, setting the whole Ava as a CI storyline aside, I just think that I did I don't know why he would hide that at this point. You know what I mean? Like why he wouldn't tell her. Even if it's to protect her. Before they went in, they were very open and communicative about certain things. And if Boyd couldn't tell her something, he let her know, you got to trust me. I can't talk about this. But he would still let her know that something was going on, right? And so that was just like, oh, that was weird. Okay, so let's dive into this. He's obsessed with her. Even when she was married to his brother, okay, and yes, there's like this whole thing. She wound up killing his brother because he was an abusive asshole, and he was totally fine with it. Um, and now, okay, before you guys come at me and say, well, he was so creepy, he didn't do anything about the abuse. Just so everyone knows, Boyd was only supposed to be in that episode. That's it. This is why they wrote it that way. Then test audiences loved Boyd because who wouldn't? And they're like, this episode is great, but you got to keep Boyd alive. This is why in season 1, we don't see too much of Boyd, or he's like tacked on for like 30 seconds. Okay. I highly doubt. I mean, maybe they would have kept Boyd the way that he was, or at least his little backstory when it came to Ava, because I thought that he had a good character arc. He had a transformation, and a lot of people, surprisingly, don't believe in that. But anyway, I digress. Okay, so things happen gradually. He's always kind of been in love with her, but I think he's always known that she's out of his league. And she's always had a thing for Rayland, who is Timothy Oliphant, who, again, very charming, kind of an idiot with women, though. This is why I was like, okay, you're cute, but you're kind of an idiot. Anyway, but he's crazy about her, like how he looks at her, how he talks to her, and just like what he's willing to do for her early on after that initial, you know, season up opener. Okay. And so again, this is what, we do. And so, okay, what are things that he does? Well, in season 2, he takes her sort of to a barbecue, and they have dancing, they dance together. He asks her opinion. Like they spend a lot of this time together. He sleeps in, his own room in her house. She basically takes him in. And it's just, I don't know how to explain it, but the way that the writers got them together was just like, it was beautiful. And just I love I love the way that he like talks about her, that he looks at her. Like this is just, you can tell that he clearly cares about her. Um and that he's not interested in anybody else. They literally go to a swingers club, and he's not looking at anybody else. He only has eyes for Ava because he knows she's out of his league, and he knows that he doesn't want to ruin that. Like he's smart, unlike Raylan. So anyway, the us against the world. Okay, so Boyd and Ava were a modern day Bonnie and Clyde, but we're way better because the real Bonnie and Clyde sucked. Um, I just loved this aspect. It was one of the reasons why I was really drawn to the show. And again, I know it's not about that. I totally get it. But I really, really wanted them to end it with that because we don't see this kind of romance in things. Like, we don't see this equal, strong pairing who are morally gray. And I would have loved to have seen it without a breakup, without a lot of this. Again, it's the punishment for the choices, right? The consequences with the actions that our society has told us, well, if you do this, then this happens. And we see it a lot in storytelling. This is why fairy tales were around, right? To show us our morality. And I'm really craving these stories where it's like you can be morally gray and not have to redeem yourself or not get a shitty ending just because of the choices that you've made. Okay. So even when he had all of his men in his posse, including his cousin that he's known obviously all of his life, he trusts Ava the most and he's willing to give up those men for Ava. This seems really callous and cruel, but again, um, we are willing to forgive that type of behavior because it is in association with the heroine. So what does that mean? That means that if Boyd's cousin Johnny hits on Ava, Boyd will beat the shit out of him, even though that's the cousin, right? If anyone threatens Ava, he's done. If anyone threatens the potential of Ava. So what does that mean? So one of the characters, Devil, was actually betraying Boyd and his group. And part of that group is Ava. Devil was dead. Like, done. Now, you could argue and say, well, Boyd is, he's betraying Boyd. Boyd would have killed him no matter what. And that is definitely true. But I think the add the Ava layer into it, and that only ups it. It's clear that Boyd is the leader, right? And Ava does listen to him. When Boyd is in prison, she gives him she gives he trusts her enough to lead in his place. So what does that mean? So when she visits him, he'll tell her, okay, you need to do this and you need to do that. And so when she goes and delivers these messages to these people, they're not happy. And she's like, look, I'm just telling you what Boyd told me to tell you. These are your orders. You can do whatever you want, but Boyd's not going to be happy. And so he trusts her to do that. He's not asking another man. He's not asking his cousin, who he's, again, known all of his life. He's not asking the other men who've been in the group longer than she has. He's specifically trusting Ava with all of this. He respected her opinion. He let her make decisions without being threatened by her or questioning her loyalty. Now, at the end of it, Boyd is going to make the decisions. She can go to him, though, with her opinion. And if it's what she wants, Boyd will give it to her. No question. So, if you would like to write dark romance, I have a few workbooks that I think would be really beneficial. First, we have our outline template, which basically is a chapter breakdown of, okay, it's dual point of view, it's 30 chapters, and basically it talks about how this chapter you should do this chapter you should do this. It also comes with a sample outline so you can see those plot points in actual, like in an outline form with characters, with a story arc. And then you have a blank template so you can go in and create your own. And it's a printable. You can do as many times as you want. I have create your characters using the Enneagram, which is great because characters need to be really well-rounded and complex, especially your hero and your heroine. And so I love the Enneagram because it talks about your character wound, sort of like the lie that they believe about themselves, their fears, and what they're good at. And using these these things, you can create a really complex character. What's great about this workbook is it's very you can plug it in. It's you don't have to think about it. And I took tropes, especially in the romance genre, but in other genres as well. And you can say, oh, I really want to do the secret baby trope. And so I have suggested Enneagrams for utilizing a trope like that. And then you have a trope structure breakdown workbook, which essentially talks about, for this one, it's enemies to lovers. And what's great about this one is that it goes into the enemies to lovers and how you can apply it to your structure. So if you like the 3-act plot structure, you can use that. If you use something more basic, like an 8-point plot, you can use that. And it goes into how you can take this trope and structure it across different genres. So whether it's a bully romance where romance is the primary plot point, or a subplot like in an urban fantasy or a cozy mystery, the focus is the enemies to lovers trope. And so using one of these things or a mix of them or all of them, it's really going to help you flesh out your characters and create a book arc or a book outline that's really going to utilize these things and help your characters make sense, help your story stay on track, help your pacing, all of those things. So if you're interested, the links are below. But for now, let's keep going. Okay, Touch Her and Die. Everyone loves this. Everyone who reads dark romance loves this. Before you say, oh, I'm so sick of it, or don't people get tired of it? No, no, absolutely 100% not. No. Okay. Boyd has killed almost anyone who has harmed Ava in the show, or he's basically beat the ever-loving shit out of them. Even the people he should be keeping alive. So I already mentioned, even in season 5, he beats the shit out of this old man because the old man essentially sent Ava to prison. Technically, it should have been Boyd. Everyone was expecting it to be Boyd, but Boyd was called somewhere else. So Ava went to handle some of Boyd's things, and she wound up with her hands literally, red-handed, and wound up getting arrested. Ava gets shot at the end of season 2, right in the chest, and by Dickie. Now, Dickie is still alive. Justified is so good in that they make you like these characters that maybe you should hate. But anyway, but Boyd is willing to, he's ready to kill him. And the only thing that stops him from killing him is Dickie winds up getting arrested and he's in prison. So Boyd actually can't. And there's a point where he could have, but Ava stops him because money is involved. And she's like, let's just see what, he can do. They're almost forced to team up, which was really, really intriguing. Anyway, Ellen May was, they literally take a hit out on her because, so what happened, and this kind of felt really weird because Ellen May is, let's just say, she's a prostitute, right? And so Ava kind of runs the little brothel, and Ellen May's former sort of pimp was going to kill Ellen May because she saw something she shouldn't have. Instead, Ava kills him to protect Ellen May. So I don't understand why this doesn't get brought up because literally he was going to kill Ellen May. Okay. So in my opinion, that should have been defense, but I guess maybe because Ava wasn't the one being threatened. But anyway. But Ellen May knew that Ava killed someone. And so they were really worried that Ellen May was going to talk, especially when Ellen May started to get, into this religion. It's a really, I'm trying not to make it super long. But anyway, they put a hit out on her. It definitely backfires because of course. But Boyd is willing to do that because Ava cannot kill Ellen May. She wants to, she knows she should, and Boyd takes care of it for her. When they're at a swingers club, everyone gets really excited when Ava shows up because Ava is very beautiful. This small town, and so it's people are they want her. And one gets a little handsy, and Boyd beats the shit out of him, which was a joy. And then I love this quote. It's they're in front of her house, and I can't even remember who they're talking to. I can't really remember, but he basically says, "That's the second time you've insulted her in front of me. There will not be a third time." Um, and so when Ava does go into prison, Boyd wants protection for her. And so he knows, I can't remember if it's an actual, I think it's a family. I think it's like a cousin. But he goes to his cousin whose sister is in the same prison and winds up paying a lot of money to ensure that the sister protects Ava while in prison. Well, that sister wound up beating the shit out of Ava because they viewed Boyd as sort of like this race traitor. It's like this thing. So whatever. Um, when Boyd finds out what happens, he's furious and he gets revenge. Because he can't do anything. And I really liked the potential of the Ava in prison storyline because Boyd feels a little bit of that helplessness. Now, if you watch the previous video, your hero should never be helpless. And Boyd isn't. He feels helpless because he can't protect Ava on his own. And so he acts by doing what he can, which is pay for protection. And when that backfires, he does get sort of that revenge. And he basically says, you better let your sister know, what happened, kind of thing. So forbidden romance. So shout out to Timothy, but whatever. Okay, so not only is Boyd her brother-in-law. So remember, Ava was married to Boyd's older brother. But at the beginning of the series, Ava and Raylan, so these two, were casually dating. And it was actually really cute. Like she had this big crush on him back in high school, and he never really went after her. Um, and so Raylan also used to be Boyd's like best friend, right? Like they used to dig coal together is sort of their thing. And what I love about the show, because it's essentially positing that Raylan could have turned criminal. Could have turned good, but they made their choices, and this is why they're on separate sides of the same coin, right? Like which I think is it's a really good dynamic. Now you add Ava, who has a history with both of them, and it's a live wire amongst this dynamic. Now, there's definitely tension. To be fair, Raylan is clearly, in my opinion, not interested in Ava after sort of the breakup. I mean, he's on and off again with his ex-wife, and gosh, that whole storyline, but whatever. But you can definitely tell that Boyd still, I wouldn't say threatened. I mean, I'm sure you could argue threatened for sure. But if we're talking about a dark romance hero, he's not threatened. It's more protective and possessive. Um, and a hint of vulnerability, there is that threat because Boyd knows that Ava's out of his league. And he also knows that Raylan is what a good man should be, right? Whether he agrees with Raylan or not, he knows that Raylan is good. He's doing things the right way. And I think deep down, he knows that Ava deserves a man like Raylan, right? But he's selfish. He wants to keep her for himself. And that's another aspect of that selfishness that we talked about in the last video, right? We want our heroes to be selfish when it comes to us, right? Like Boyd doesn't care if Raylan is the better man. He's not going to give Ava up. It's not a selfishness of, I'm going to feel threatened by her being heir to this throne, and so I'm going to try and get it for myself or whatever that Damon was going through. Um, And this goes back to he would give up everything for her. So, like multiple times, he was willing to give up a job. He was willing to give up his plans. He was willing to give up money like $300,000, all of this money to protect her so they could run away together, so they can do all of this. Sometimes it would be her saying, like, let's not do it. Sometimes they'd be close to doing it, and then something would stop them. So he was willing to do all of that for her because she was the most important person in his life. Now, when we get back to season 6, it turns a little bit. And again, to be fair, based on how Ava reacts, I could understand why Boyd pulls back a little on this. Okay. But if we're sticking with our seasons 1 through 4, Boyd and Ava, Ava's the most important thing to Boyd. That means he would give up being a criminal, being in charge of all of this stuff. He wouldn't care about that. He only cares about her safety, and being with her for the rest of his life. Okay. So, yeah, so he would give up everything for her. Okay. So we're going to do some bonuses because how could I not? My wife. Readers love this shit. Okay. If you want to lather that book in butter and you're doing like a marriage thing, my wife. They never actually got married. But after the proposal, after she says yes, he calls her his wife. Oh gosh. Sometimes he says fiance, but there were certain times when he's all like, she's my wife. And I was like, Boyd, stop. So yes, I would definitely utilize that. So bonus number 2 is, you loved her. Like, okay, so we have Rayland. They're actually talking at the end of season 6. I don't want to, we don't have to get into it, but basically Raylan is saying, out of all of the shitty things that Boyd has done, and Raylan looks at Boyd as the shitty person, no redemption, no good in him, nothing, right? He did love Ava. And so when you have the secondary character who gains nothing by telling, the readers or utilizing dialogue to show this shows the depth of that love. So if Raylan could see that it wasn't fake, that it wasn't just a hookup, that Boyd truly loved Ava, that's a huge deal. That is a huge deal. And so if your character is supposed to be bad or savage, or basically a Daemon Targaryen, where, he is this just awful, awful person who makes these awful choices and doesn't feel guilty, like she can go sleep at night, you know, for someone to be like, you, 99% of you is pure evil, but that 1% of you who loved, this person, like I could see that. And again, that's that redeeming quality. Make your hero as terrible as you want, but if your one redeeming quality in him is that love or that softness or that vulnerability, specifically for that heroine. And Boyd had it to the point where even Raylan acknowledged it. And the last bonus is a secret baby. After Ava's ridiculously out of character season 6 arc where she runs away from Boyd, we find out that she has his son like 4 years later. I'm not going to go into it because this whole thing was really stupid, but if you're a dark romance writer, you could, oh my gosh, the things that you could do with this storyline. But look at all of these things and how it was the perfect dark romance. They just didn't write it the right way. Okay, so basically put it all together. Like, look at this face, guys. Anyway, put it all together. So, like, learning from this, you can take these key ingredients and give readers an amazing dark romance book boyfriend, just like Boyd was. I would definitely watch the show if you can. Seasons 5 and 6 were a little bit hard to get through. My ship went down hard. I went down with it. But gosh, like what I learned as a writer, the inspiration that I got, and just oh my gosh, Boyd. Oh, I fell in love with that guy. I see a lot of memes where it's like I came for Raylan and I stayed for Boyd, and it's honey, oh my gosh, preach. Anyway, that's enough for me. I really hope that helped you. If it did, please like, subscribe, and leave me a comment if you want more of like this kind of video where we do like cutesy little, you know, screenshot, like slideshows, and we talk about how to write some books. So, I will see you guys in my next video. Have a good one. Bye.